Welcome to the world of science fiction and forgotten worlds. Alien Universe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and never miss a new movies and story from this channel. Jace Ryland did not save the aliens because he was brave. He saved them because he was angry, hungry, and tired of watching people starve on a planet that had perfectly good dirt. On Marrowfield 9, food was more valuable than oxygen, and oxygen was already rationed. So when 3 unknown aliens walked into his greenhouse and asked for help, he did not see a threat. He saw the same look he saw every morning in the mirror, the look of someone who was running out of time. The colony called him useless. Corporate called him inefficient. The quota reports called him a failure. But the soil did not lie, and Jace trusted soil more than he trusted people. The ground on this world was not dead. It was just misunderstood. It needed microbes, it needed shade, it needed patience. 3 things the company refused to spend. The aliens watched him like students in a classroom that had never existed before. They did not interrupt, they did not rush, and they did not try to take anything. They waited. That was the first thing. That told Jace they were different. Hungry creatures rushed. Desperate creatures grabbed. These ones learned. He opened his last seed locker, the one he had hidden behind a broken water pump, so the inspectors would not confiscate it for resource. Redistribution. Inside were the seeds he had been saving for a future that probably would never come. Potatoes that could grow in thin air, beans that could fix nitrogen, and a packet of engineered moss that could pull moisture out of nothing but cold wind. It was his retirement plan, his escape plan, and his last hope, all in one box. He hesitated for exactly 3 seconds. Then he handed the box to the aliens. Their translation device flickered and struggled, but one clear phrase appeared. Life giver. Jace almost laughed. Nobody had ever called him that before. On this planet, he was ration waste, quota drag, and once, during a particularly bad supply meeting, replaceable biomass. Now 3 starving beings were looking at him like he mattered. He packed the rest of his tools quickly. A hand trowel worn smooth from years of use, a portable water recycler built from scrap, and a pouch of mycorrhizal fungi that he treated more carefully than most people treated their children. The fungi were the real secret. Plants did not survive alone. They survived because of partnerships underground. That was the lesson the company never understood, and the lesson the aliens seemed ready to learn. Night fell early, and the wind began to rise. Dust storms on Marrowfield 9 could peel paint off metal and skin off bone. The aliens did not seem afraid of the storm. They moved through it like it was part of them, their pale plates shifting to deflect the sand. Jace struggled to keep up, his boots sinking into loose ash soil as they headed toward the Forbidden's Ridge. No patrol drones. No perimeter lights. Corporate did not waste power on land that did not produce profit. That was why the aliens had survived this long. They had hidden in the one place no one bothered to look, the place labeled non-viable. After an hour of walking, they reached a narrow canyon that cut deep into the rock like a wound. The air inside was warmer, calmer, and filled with something Jace had not smelled in months. Moisture. Just a trace of it, but enough to make his heart race. The aliens led him into a cavern lit by a dim bioluminescent glow. 2 figures lay against the far wall, thinner than the others, their plates dull and cracked. Their breathing was shallow, uneven. Starvation was universal. It looked the same on every species. Jace dropped his pack and went to work without speaking. He mixed nutrient gel with recycled water, crushed a protein slab into paste, and carefully fed it to the weakest one. The aliens watched every movement, memorizing. They were not just waiting for food. They were learning how to save their own. The translation device pulsed again. Can we grow food here? Jace looked around the cavern. The floor was rocky. The light was low, and the air was thin. Every farming manual in the galaxy would say it was impossible. Jace smiled. Yeah, he said quietly. We can, because farming was never about perfect conditions. It was about making life where life was not supposed to be. It was about patience, partnerships, and small victories that turned into ecosystems. He knelt and pressed his hand into the cold stone floor. First, he said, we make soil. The aliens leaned closer, as if he had just revealed the first secret of the universe down above them. Far beyond the canyon, a corporate satellite adjusted its orbit by 1/2 degree, and far a degree, and began recording unusual heat signatures in a zone marked non-viable. No alarm was triggered, not yet, but the machine was watching, and machines did not forget dot down in the cavern. Jace planted the first seed dot. It was a potato eye, barely the size of his thumb, pushed into a small pouch of improvised soil made from crushed rock, fungus, and recycled waste. It did not look like the beginning of anything important. It looked small, fragile, and completely insignificant, but the aliens watched it like it was a star being born. Jace wiped his hands and looked at the 2 starving sisters, now breathing a little more steadily. Food takes time, he told them. But once it starts, it doesn't stop. The translation device flickered and displayed a single word. Home? Jace looked at the tiny planted seed, at the aliens who refused to give up, and at the cavern that smelled faintly of moisture. And hope. Yeah, he said. Home. The first sprout appeared on the 6th day. Jace woke to a sound he had not heard on this planet in months, the soft, wet crack of something alive pushing through soil. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. Then he rolled over, saw the faint green hook rising from the pouch, and laughed so loudly the cavern walls echoed. The aliens rushed closer. Their dark eyes reflected the tiny leaf like it was a sunrise. To them, this was not just a plant. It was proof that the universe had not abandoned them. Jace raised a finger. No touching, he said gently. Roots are working. They stopped. Immediately. They listened. That was the difference. Humans argued. Corporate ignored. These beings absorbed knowledge like dry ground absorbed rain. He showed them how to mist the soil instead of pouring water, how to recycle their waste into nutrients, how to break rock into dust and mix it with fungus to build structure. Farming was not planting seeds. Farming was building a system that fed itself. The weakest sister began to recover. Her plates regained a faint sheen, and her breathing deepened. Every improvement strengthened the others. They worked in shifts, grinding stone, collecting condensation from the canyon walls, and adjusting the solar lamp to mimic a day-night cycle. On the 10th day, there were 3 sprouts. On the 15th day, there were 9. Jace realized something important. The aliens were not just copying his actions. They were improving them. Their long, delicate fingers could separate mineral layers in the rock that humans could not even see. They sorted dust by color and density, creating soil blends with perfect balance. They adjusted moisture levels with precision that no human farmer could match. They were becoming farmers faster than any human colony ever had. The translation device pulsed more clearly now. Their language patterns were stabilizing. We grow. Faster together. It displayed .jace nodded. That's how it works. Soil, fungus, water, roots. Nobody survives alone. The lead alien tilted her head. Like us, he smiled. Exactly like you. Food production increased. The first potato formed underground, small but real. When Jace dug it up, the aliens gathered around in silence. He cut it into equal pieces, cooked it over a small heat plate, and handed each of them a share. They ate slowly, reverently, The device displayed a new phrase, not hunger. 2 simple words, but Jace felt them like a victory. He began teaching crop rotation, microbial, layering, and shade management using woven mineral sheets. The cavern changed. It no longer smelled like cold stone. It smelled alive, damp, and green. Then the warning came. Jace's wrist comb, which had been silent for days, suddenly crackled to life. A corporate ping, automated and sharp. Unregistered. Power draw detected in non-viable sector. Investigation drone en route. His blood ran cold. They had been careful, using minimal energy, hiding heat signatures. But the growing plants, the water recycler, the solar lamp, it had added up. The alien sensed the change in his posture immediately. Danger? The device asked. Yeah, Jace said. Big danger. Corporate drones did not ask questions. They scanned, reported, and flagged anomalies. An illegal settlement, unknown species, unauthorized agriculture, every one of those would trigger a response. And response meant containment, extraction, or sterilization. The sisters moved quickly. They dimmed the solar lamp, covered the growing beds with mineral sheets, and redistributed heat sources to mimic natural geothermal patterns. Their understanding of concealment was instinctive, almost artistic. A low hum echoed faintly from above the canyon. The drone. Jace's mind raced. Even if the heat signature was hidden, visual scans could detect structured growth patterns, rows, symmetry, signs of intelligent farming. He grabbed a handful of dust and scattered it across the planting beds, breaking the clean lines. Then he stepped back, trying to make everything look random, primitive. The hum grew louder, then faded. The drone passed. Jace did not breathe until the cum unit fell silent again. The translation device pulsed. Safe? For now, Jace said. But they'll come back if they see anything strange. The lead sister stepped forward. Her plates shifted, forming patterns Jace had begun to recognize as emotion. We protect Grow Place, the device translated. Grow Place is life. Jace looked at the rows of hidden plants, at the recovered sisters, at the system they had built together in less than 3 weeks. This was more than survival now. This was independence. And independence was something corporations did not tolerate. He realized the stakes had changed. He was no longer just helping starving aliens. He was teaching them a skill that could free them from any supply chain, any ration system, any empire that controlled food, that made him dangerous, that made them dangerous. The device displayed a new phrase, one it had never shown before. What is price? Jace frowned. Price for what? For teaching, for life. He shook his head. You don't owe me anything. This is just what people should do. The sisters exchanged a look, their plates shimmering in a way he did not yet understand. Noted. A device said dot above them. The corporate satellite adjusted its orbit again, this time logging a pattern of moisture accumulation, inconsistent with geological models. A secondary flag was placed. No alarm yet. But the system was learning. Down in the cavern, a second planting bed was completed, then a third. The first true harvest was still weeks away, but the ecosystem was stable. The aliens were no longer starving. Jace sat back against the cavern wall, exhausted but satisfied. He had done it. He had made life in a place labeled impossible. What he did not realize was that the lesson he had given them, the ability to grow food anywhere, was more valuable than any weapon in the galaxy. And the sisters had already decided how to repay him. They just had not told him yet. The harvest came on the 32nd day. It was not large, not by human colony standards. A few fist-sized potatoes, a cluster of protein beans, and a mat of edible greens grown under carefully angled solar light. But in that hidden cavern, It looked like a mountain of gold. JAC. E spread the food on a flat stone and divided it the way he always did. Equal shares, no exceptions. The sisters watched closely, their eyes following every movement of his hands. Balance keeps systems alive, he said. If one takes too much, everything collapses. The translation device pulsed softly. You farm with fairness. That's not farming, Jace replied. That's survival. They ate together in silence. No rush, no fear, no scraping for the last piece. For the first time since Jace had met them, there was no desperation in their movements. That was when the ground trembled, not the sharp vibration of a drone. This was deeper, slower, like something massive shifting far below the canyon. The sisters reacted instantly. Their plates flared slightly, forming ridges along their arms. Not aggression. Alertness. JACE checked his comm. No corporate signal. No storm warning. Earthquake? He asked. The device translated their response after a brief flicker. No. Ship. Jace's stomach dropped. Ship? Here? Hidden, the device displayed. Below. They led him to the far end of the cavern, past the growing beds and into a narrow passage he had never noticed before. The air grew warmer as they descended, and the stone walls became smoother, almost melted, and the tunnel opened into a chamber so large his breath caught. A starship rested there, half buried. In rock. It was not sleek like human vessels. It looked grown, not built, its surface layered in pale plates like the sisters' bodies. Cracks ran along its hull, and entire sections were dark, lifeless. Crash? Jace asked. Yes, the device replied. Long ago. We hide. We wait. We starve. Jace walked closer, running a hand along the cold surface. If corporate found this, they would strip it for technology, weapons, anything valuable. The sisters would become specimens. Why show me this? He asked quietly. The lead sister stepped forward. Her plates shifted into a pattern he had never seen before, a slow, rhythmic pulse. Trust, the device translated. Jace swallowed. No one in the colony trusted him with anything important. Now an alien species was showing him their last secret. He circled the ship, noticing something strange. Along one side, a series of recessed chambers held small pods filled with dry, gray dust. Seed vault? He guessed. The device flickered brightly. Yes, dead seeds. Jace knelt and examined the dust. It was not completely dead. There were fragments of structure, genetic traces, maybe recoverable with the right nutrients and microbial support. You tried to grow these? He asked. We had no soil, came the reply. No knowledge. Jace looked back toward the cavern above, where green life now covered the stone. Maybe they're not dead, he said. The sisters leaned closer, hope radiating from their posture. If we rebuild your soil system up there, and we add your seeds slowly, one at a time, we might wake them up, Jace explained. But it'll take time, and we have to stay hidden. The ground trembled again, stronger this time. Jace checked his cone. A new signal flashed across the screen. Corporate survey vessel entering low orbit. Full spectrum scan authorized. They had been found. Not the cavern, not yet, but the anomalies were stacking up. Moisture patterns, heat signatures, biological growth in a non-viable zone. Corporate would not ignore that. How long? Jace asked. The device processed for a moment. Short. Panic tried to rise in his chest, but he forced it down. Farming had taught him patience under pressure. You did not scream at a drought. You adapted. We need camouflage, he said. We break up the planting patterns, reduce power use, and spread moisture output across multiple points. Make it look natural. The sisters moved immediately, faster than he had ever seen. Beds were dismantled and reassembled in irregular shapes. Heat sources were buried deeper. Reflective mineral sheets were angled to scatter thermal readings. Jace ran back to the main cavern and shut down the solar lamp, switching to intermittent cycles to mimic natural light leaks from the canyon. Above, hours passed in tense silence. Then the comm unit beeped again. Scan complete. Sector classified as low value. No deployment required. Jace sagged against the wall, relief flooding through him. But the sisters were not celebrating. The lead one stepped forward, a translation device glowing brighter than ever before. "We cannot stay hidden forever," it displayed. "Others search for us, enemies." Jace looked at the hidden ship below, at the fragile farm above, and at the sisters who had learned to grow life from nothing. "Then we make you self-sufficient," he said. "Food, water, soil, everything you need to survive without hiding." The device paused, then showed a new phrase, not just survive. "Grow world." Jace frowned. "What do you mean, grow world?" The sisters guided him back down to the ship and activated a section of the wall he had not noticed. A holographic map filled the chamber, showing stars, trade routes, and a highlighted planet far beyond human colony space. Home, the device. Translated, empty, waiting. Jace stared at the glowing planet. "You have a whole world?" "Yes, we cannot farm it. We will die there." Understanding hit him slowly. Like sunrise, they did not need a farmer for a cavern. They needed a farmer for a planet. Jace laughed softly, half in disbelief. "I can't even keep one colony fed," he said. "And you want me to fix a world?" The sisters' plates shimmered with that same strange, respectful pattern. "You make life where none exists," the device displayed. "Teach us, planet for you." Jace looked at the map, at the green rose. Above, at the hidden ship, and at the future being offered to a man who had been called replaceable. He realized the truth in that moment. Food was power. And he had just become the most valuable person in two civilizations. Far above the canyon. The corporate survey vessel adjusted its orbit one more time, marking the sector for periodic review. They had not found the farm, but they had started watching the sky. And soon, someone would notice that one inefficient farmer had stopped requesting rations altogether. Jace did not answer the sisters right away. A planet. They were offering him a planet like it was a bag of seed. Any other human would have said yes before the translation finished. But Jace had spent his whole life watching people make big promises, while small systems collapsed underneath them. "Show me," he said quietly. "Show me why you can't farm your own world." The hologram shifted. The green-blue planet zoomed closer, rotating slowly. At first, it looked perfect. Wide oceans, deep valleys, clouds heavy with moisture. A farmer's dream. Then the soil data appeared. Jace's stomach dropped. "No organic layer," he whispered. "No microbial life. No nitrogen cycle. It's sterile." "Yes," the device translated. "Our sun changed. Life died. We left." Jace leaned closer, studying mineral composition, atmospheric density, seasonal patterns. The planet had water, light, and the right temperature range, but without microbes, the soil was just crushed rock. Seeds would sprout and die within days. Forests would fail before their roots formed. It was not a dead world. It was a world that had forgotten how to live. Jace felt a strange spark in his chest. That was his specialty. Not farming good land, farming broken land. "You don't need a farmer," he said slowly. "You need an ecosystem engineer." The sisters' plates shifted in that respectful pulse again. "Same," the device replied. Jace almost smiled. Then his comm unit screamed. Not a soft ping. Not an automated notice. A priority alert from Colony Command. Rylan, the message read, you are flagged for ration inactivity and unauthorized sector movement. Return to base immediately for compliance review. They had noticed, not the farm, not the aliens, him. A human who stopped requesting food on a starving colony was an anomaly. An anomaly triggered audits. Audits triggered searches. How long? He asked. Investigation team deploy in 40 hours. The device translated from his con data. 40 hours. If corporate found the canyon, they would take everything. The sisters, the ship, the farm, the seeds. And Jace would disappear into a compliance facility where questions never ended. The sisters watched him carefully. You leave? The device asked. Jace looked at the tiny green rose above, at the ship below, and at the holographic planet waiting in silence. If I go back, they'll track me here, he said. If I don't go back, they'll come looking anyway. The lead sister stepped forward. Then we go. The device displayed. Go where? Home world, Jace blinked. You can't even grow food there yet. You will, came the simple reply. It sounded impossible. It sounded insane. But it also sounded like freedom. Jace paced the chamber, mind racing through logistics. The ship was damaged, but not dead. Power systems could be restarted. Life support could run minimal. The journey would be long, but the sisters had survived worse. And if they left now, before the investigation team arrived, corporate would find nothing but an empty canyon. They would mark it as a false anomaly. They would stop looking. Jace stopped pacing. Can the ship fly? He asked. Slow. Hidden, the device replied. That was enough. He ran back to the farm and began packing the most important components. Seed vaults, fungal cultures, microbial starters, the portable recycler, soil samples from the canyon that had already proven viable. Not just food, the blueprint of an ecosystem. The sisters worked with perfect coordination, dismantling the remaining beds and transferring living soil into sealed containers. Nothing wasted, nothing left behind. As they worked, the translation. Device pulsed again. There is more, it displayed. Jace looked up. More what? Price. I told you, you don't owe me anything. The sisters' plates shifted into a new pattern, one that felt heavier, more formal. Our species does not give land, the device translated. We give guardianship. Jace frowned. What does that mean? The hologram of the planet changed. A marker appeared on a fertile valley near an ocean. You will not own. The device continued. You will protect, teach, grow. Planet is yours to farm, not to sell. Jace stared at the glowing valley. It was not a reward. It was a responsibility. And for the first time in his life, someone was offering him a future based on what he could build, not what he could extract. He nodded slowly. Yeah, he said. That's fair. The sisters' plates brightened, almost like relief. The ship powered up with a deep, resonant hum that echoed through the canyon. Lights flickered along the organic walls, systems waking after years of dormancy. Jace felt the vibration under his boots and realized something else. He was leaving humanity. Behind, not forever, maybe, but long enough that the colony would mark him as missing and dead. Another failed farmer lost to the dust. Strangely, he felt no fear, only possibility. As the last container of living soil was secured, the cum unit on his wrist flashed one final time. Compliance team en route. Arrival in 30 minutes. They had come early. No time left. Jace climbed into the ship's central chamber as the sisters sealed the entrance. The canyon above began to collapse inward, triggered by a controlled resonance pulse that disguised the launch signature as a natural rockfall. The ship lifted silently through the hidden tunnel, rising toward the open sky. Jace looked through. The translucent hull as Merrowfield 9 shrank beneath them. The starving colony, the ration lines, the broken greenhouse. He should have felt guilt. Instead, he felt something else. Determination. Because he was not running away. He was taking the knowledge that could free entire worlds from starvation, and he was going to plant it somewhere corporate could never control. The hologram of the sisters' homeworld filled the chamber again, brighter now, closer. A dead planet waiting for soil. A farmer with a ship full of life. And a promise that was bigger than any reward. First lesson, Jace said, as the stars stretched into motion around them. We don't start with crops, the device translated instantly. We start with bacteria, they replied. Jace grinned. They were ready. What he did not know was that the corporate vessel had detected a brief gravitational anomaly during launch. Not enough to track, not enough to intercept, but enough to log. A missing farmer, a vanished anomaly, an unexplained energy spike. A file was opened, and somewhere in corporate space, someone with power finally noticed the name Jace Ryland for the first time. By then, he was already on his way to a planet that would change the balance of food, power, and survival across the galaxy. The first rain on the sisters' world lasted 4 days. Not a storm, not a flood, just a steady, patient fall of water onto land that had not felt life in centuries. Jace stood in the valley they had chosen, boots sinking into mud that did not, yet deserved to be called soil, and watched the droplets disappear into the ground. Good, he said softly. Water has to believe it's welcome. The sisters moved across the plain, spreading the first layer of microbial culture. They worked in wide arcs, careful and precise, planting life too small to see. No seeds yet, no crops. Just bacteria, fungi, and time. That was the part most civilizations never understood. Food did not start with plants. It started with invisible workers building a foundation. Weeks passed. The sterile dust began to darken. Mineral drains bonded with organic matter. Moisture stayed longer after each rain. The first moss took hold along the shaded rocks, thin and fragile, but alive. Jace recorded everything, adjusting ratios, testing patches, teaching the sisters how to read the land the way he once read Merrowfield 9. Wind direction, condensation patterns, mineral taste. Farming was observation before action. You listen. To ground, the device translated one evening. Always, Jace replied. The ground tells you what it needs. The first true plant went into the new soil on day 52. A hardy bean, chosen for nitrogen fixation and resilience. Jace pressed it into the earth and stepped back. Now we wait, he said. The sisters did not like waiting. No species that had known starvation ever did, but they trusted him. On day 61, the sprout appeared. On day 80, the valley was dotted with green. On day 120, there was enough food for all of them without rationing. The sisters gathered around the first full harvest in silence. Their plates shimmered in complex patterns, brighter than Jace had ever seen. Home, the device translated. Jace looked across the valley, at the darkening soil, the spreading moss, the rows of legumes feeding the ground as much as themselves. Not yet, he said, but it will be. They kept expanding. Forests would take decades. Oceans would take longer. But the cycle had started, and once a biological system reached stability, it did not need a farmer every day. It needed guardians. One morning, the lead sister approached him alone. The translation device glowed steadily. Planet system recognizes you, it displayed. Jace frowned. Recognizes me how? A holographic interface formed in the air, far more advanced than the damaged ship systems had been. Planetary control networks, weather modulation arrays, water distribution maps. Ancient infrastructure, dormant until now. Caretaker access. Granted, the device translated, guardian of growth. Jace stared at the controls. With this system, he could guide rainfall, prevent drought, protect ecosystems during early development. Not control the planet, protect it. A planet that trusted him. A species that trusted him. A future built on soil instead of quotas. He thought of Marrowfield 9, of ration lines and corporate audits, of being called replaceable. Here, nothing about him was replaceable. He was necessary. Years passed. The valley became a forest edge. Rivers stabilized. Microbial diversity exploded across the continents. Native plant analogs from the Sisters' seed vault began to revive, guided by the living soil Jace had built. The Sisters no longer needed him for every decision. They had become farmers themselves. That was the goal. A good teacher made himself unnecessary. One evening, as golden light filtered through young trees, the translation device spoke again. You gave us life. We give you world. Jace shook his head. I didn't give you anything. You did the work. Together, the device corrected. He smiled at that. A signal suddenly appeared on the planetary network, faint and distant, a human broadcast. Old corporate frequencies, degraded by time and distance. Marrowfield 9 had collapsed 2 years after he left. Supply chains failed. Quotas rose. The colony starved. Corporate abandoned it when profit margins fell below threshold. Jace closed the transmission quietly. He had tried to save them once. They had not listened. Now he was saving a world that did. The Sisters stood beside him, looking out over the growing forest. More planets are empty, the device translated. More worlds forget how to live. Jace looked at his hands, still stained with soil. A farmer with a planet. A teacher with a species. A system that could end starvation anywhere it went. Then we don't stop here, he said. The Sisters' plates flared with bright, joyful patterns. Fleet will grow, the device replied. Not war fleet, seed fleet. Jace laughed, the sound echoing through the trees. Humanity had built empires with guns, corporations with contracts, and colonies with quotas. He was going to build something else. A network of living worlds, each one independent, each one fed by its own. Soil, each one impossible to control through hunger. And all it had taken was one starving farmer, 3 desperate sisters, and a single seed planted in the dark. The final harvest that season was larger than any before. They shared it under a sky filled with new clouds, rain forming naturally now, the planet breathing on its own. Jace raised a cup of fresh, clean water and looked at the sisters. To growing, he said. The device translated, then added a final phrase he had never taught them. To the life giver. Far beyond their world, corporate records still listed Jace Rylan as missing, presumed dead, asset value negligible. On a living planet that had once been dust, he smiled at that. Because the most powerful thing in the galaxy was not a weapon, a fleet, or a corporation. It was food that one could take away. And he was going to teach the entire universe how to grow it.